up to 45% tariff on Chinese-built and imported electric vehicles. Your reaction and analysis of that number?
So overall, we do think that today is a good day for European industrial policy. It means there's one single vision, and that means we are serious about trying to create the business case for local manufacturing in Europe. We believe that, and I certainly already see it in some of the data, that some of the Chinese companies will still be doing really well. They have a good product. We still will see those brands on the European market, but they will likely be producing here rather than importing it from China.
Julia, I push back on the one single vision a little bit, simply because when you look at how the vote went out, yes, 10 came out and supported, France key among them, but 12 abstained and a whole number actually voted against, for example, Germany. How much behind-the-scenes work is there now to try and iron this out that they don't have to be imposed?
I think that ultimately, given the amount of pressure that there has been against the tariffs, the amount of negotiation, and the fact that the largest European country have actually voted against, given all this, the fact that tariffs went through does actually mean that behind the scenes there must be an agreement that even though we continue negotiating, we are going with the tariffs. So it means Europe did decide that the case for local manufacturing is more important than the risk of retaliation from China.
Julia, Transport and Environment call themselves the leading advocates for clean energy and transport in Europe. And this morning you published research that basically said these tariffs alone will not save the EV industry in Europe if there is not a refocus, I think is fair to say, on broader CO2 targets and other climate targets. What else is it that you're calling to be done alongside the imposition of these tariffs?
So tariffs only make sense in tandem with a broader, stronger climate policy that would push car makers to actually manufacture locally affordable electric vehicles. As long as the wide industrial policy would. So we need to onshore battery manufacturing, for example. The battery import tariffs into Europe is 1%. While a lot of local companies are struggling. So we also need stronger defense measures there. We need to ramp up charging stations, make it easier for people to charge, for example, simplify the way we connect to the grid. So there's a number of measures that all have to come together. And alongside them, tariffs really help because they give a chance to the European electric vehicle industry.
What's interesting is ultimately local analysts over in China saying this is going to have a minor impact on the Chinese EV names. Because when all taken in its totality, their market share just isn't that significant to Europe. So how impactful will this be on imports from Geely, from BYD?
So actually, we see that today, given that the US market is closed ultimately to Chinese manufacturers, and given their huge oversupply and overcapacity there, European market is very important. Some data shows that up to 60% today of all global EV exports from China go to Europe, the EU, but of course also the UK and Norway. So it is a significant market. That's why I think Europe shouldn't be so scared of retaliation. Of course, it's a risk, but China also needs Europe. And ultimately, as I said before, we will see the Chinese brands in Europe, but they will manufacture here, they will build batteries here, and hopefully we as Europeans benefit from them in terms of IP and value.